we're going to talk about layoffs. And we're not going to talk about all these companies that laid off people recently in a really terrible way. Those are other videos. You can find them on my page. Instead, we're going to talk about how if a company actually has to do some layoffs, they should do it. And if you are a manager or a leader that's never had to lay somebody off before, how you should do it. And we're going to do it in a way that you would, heaven forbid you had to lose your job, want it to happen for you in the best way possible. So companies have gotten into the habit of doing the big Zoom call, getting hundreds to thousands of people on at one time, pushing a button, all their IT access gets cut off. And we know that's terrible for a lot of reasons. Number one, great employees will never come to work for them again because they did that. Number two, it gives them a terrible name in the marketplace for not properly managing their personnel to get rid of the low performing people so that they didn't have to do a mass layoff. And they can do that every quarter. It's not difficult with progressive discipline. But most importantly, if this was going to happen to you and you're in a position where you're a manager, how should this happen? So let's say that you're tasked as a manager with cutting your department back 10%. And you're looking at it and you go, okay, so I normally am already as a manager doing my job and I'm cutting the low performers up. I'm either coaching them back up to where they need to be to meet standards or I'm coaching them out of the organization, right? It's not difficult to do. Progressive discipline is very easy. It's been around for 30 years. However, if you have to lay somebody off, meaning that this is not their fault that they're being let go, that the department simply isn't making enough money or the business isn't making enough money. How do you do that? Well, you do this really honestly and transparently, and you do this one-on-one, one person at a time, and you do it privately. So you sit down with them, and we'll use Bob. So we'll say, hey, Bob, I need to speak to you today. I need to let you know that the business, unfortunately, is having to do a 10% cutback in our department. And now you should have selected either the low performer or the person that was the least senior if you're doing this correctly as a manager, right? Not the person that you liked the least or anything else, but the person that was either least senior or the person that was performing the least is the person that you should let go. And again, this is not a likability contest. Doing your job and liking someone are two different things. So if you're sitting there with them and you say, hey, I wanted to let you know that unfortunately we have to cut back you and another person today because you guys are the least senior people in the department. We have to make a 10% cutback. I'm very sorry that this is happening. This is not any indication of your work product or how dedicated that you have been to the company. I'm happy to write you today a letter of reference. By the way, if you're the manager, you should have this ready in advance. I have a letter of reference here ready for you. We're not going to block your unemployment. This is a layoff. That shouldn't be any problem for you to file for EDD, which I would suggest that you do today. We're going to be paying you through the end of this week or next week. And by the way, if you're going to lay people off and they've been there for more than a year, you should pay them 1 week of severance per year of service minimum up to a cap that is comfortable for your company. So maybe that's a cap of 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever your company can do. But at least 1 week per year of service is appropriate. And then you say, hey, you've been here 2 years, so I'm going to be able to give you 2 weeks of pay as a severance for this. And we're very sorry that this happened today, but we try to do this in the most fair way possible and the least senior. Now, if the company can rehire and starts to do better next quarter, we absolutely will reach back out. And if you're in a position in another job right then where you are happy and stable and you like it, we totally understand if you want to stay there, but we'd reach back out and try to see if you'd like to come back if we're in a better financial position at the time. That is the way that you would like to be spoken to if this was you. Respectfully, one-on-one, in private, understanding the reason, having everything prepared in advance. So do that for another person. It is your responsibility as a manager or leader to do that. Companies, if you need to let large amounts of people go, your managers need to have a whole bunch of one-on-one meetings in person with everything prepared in advance. Not to do so is unprofessional, will hurt your name in the market, and A players will avoid your company at all cost in the future and will not apply. And then you will be playing with a team of B and C players only because A players know to avoid you because you have not conducted yourself professionally. Let me know your thoughts.